10 days to election 2020. Hello and welcome to Election Brief with me, Gifty and up here. Our lead reports this hour. Electoral Commission burns excess ballot papers printed for this year's printing houses. We'll also bring you updates from today's IPAC meeting. Also coming up, 261 flashpoints identified in the OT region alone. Armed and high robbery on the rise. Residents fear recent event could affect the electoral process there.
That we want people security to come very tightly, because some of them, when they come, even those that are at the polling station there to control, they don't even regard them in anything.
Also coming up, latest research reveals most Ghanaians want soldiers deployed during election day to provide security. But why? Details as we wrap up our series highlighting the security situations in various communities in the lead up to the December elections.
We can't even work after 7 because of the robbers. The little money you get, they'll rob you.
So far, at least around 4:30 to 10 o'clock, Charlie, it's something else.
We wrap up this year's series of the ballot box from the Tema Central constituency. Election Brief is brought to you by Cowbell Coffee and Petrosol. Remember, we're live on your DSTV channel 421, GoTV 144. We're all on all our social media platforms, and we're here on JoyNews TV. I am Gifty and up here. You're welcome to the details of those stories and more. Now, the Electoral Commission today burnt excess ballot papers printed for next year's election from selected print houses. This comes after the opposition National Democratic Congress accused the Commission of printing over 150,000 excess ballot papers in an attempt to rig the December 7 elections. A few weeks ago, the National Campaign Coordinator of the NDC, Professor Joshua Alabi, alleged that the over 150,000 excess ballot papers were printed without the notice to political parties. According to him, these were not part of the extra 5% ballot papers that the EC is mandated to print to cater for errors. We'll bring you more on this in our subsequent bulletins. Now, still on the Electoral Commission, it is asking political parties to give them up to Monday to furnish them with a list of registered voters added to the supplementary register. The EC explains that the court ordered them to include names of persons who challenged their disqualification but was unable to provide a list of such persons. At a just-ended IPAC meeting, the parties demanded the full list of registered voters is captured on the supplementary register. My colleague, Kwesi Parker Wilson, has been monitoring the IPAC meeting and is joining me via Zoom right now. Parker, let's begin with what exactly the issue has been with the supplementary register.
All right, so Gifty, today's IPAC meeting essentially was to update the parties on the verification process, the content of the statement of vote, voting at prisons without polling station, update on the missing names, and that is where the concern is, missing names. Now, the NDC had alleged that the EC was smuggling about 541 names onto the register. Now, the point the Electoral Commission made was that some individuals challenged their disqualification, and so they went to court, and the court asked them to be on the register. Now, mind you, the Commission had already created the certified register and had given the register to the political party. So it was impossible for them to have added the additional names onto the certified register. Reason for creation of the supplementary register. But when they came to the IPAC meeting today, the EC then updated the list and told the political parties that now the names have moved from 541 to about 800. The parties demanded the full list, I mean, the names or the accurate figure. But according to the Deputy General Secretary of the NDC, Mr. Bobo Tukono, and also a member of the NPP, that is Obi Amwa, the Electoral Commission couldn't provide them with the names of the 800 people or even the actual figures. And so they told me that the EC actually begged them that by close of day Monday, they will submit the names of these individuals to them so that they can have them, and then on the day of election, at least they can cross-check with the ones the Electoral Commission has at the polling station and the one that they have. So that was a bone of contention. And the NDC Deputy General Secretary, Prosecutor, says that it was the first time the NPP and the NDC had agreed on one subject at IPAC meeting. And so he was happy that for the first time, the NPP sided with the NDC. Now, there's another issue that the NDC says that the NPP also indeed commended them for and sided with them. It was about voting at the prison. Now, the Electoral Commission says that it's very difficult that the security personnel at the prisons would guard the prisoners or protect them with security once they have voted. And so they wanted to create a special police station at the prison. The NDC objected to that. And the NPP agreed with the NDC that it is not possible that they create a special police center at the prison because unscrupulous individuals can abuse the system and even stamp the ballot at the prison. And so that was the conclusion and the agreement from both sides. So the NDC is happy today that at least the NPP for once have agreed with them, and because of the agreement, they have pushed the Electoral Commission to review the things that they intended to do going forward into this year's election.
You mentioned voting in the prisons. So what does it mean right now? Does it mean that the prisoners or those in prison cannot vote as it stands?
Well, they will vote. But you see, when they were registering, they registered outside the prison walls. They created a polling station nearby the prison. And that was when the individuals or the prisoners went to register. Now,
but you said that the parties disagreed with setting up a polling station or polling stations in the prisons.
Yes, mainly because the security personnel at the prison on the day of election would also have to go and exercise their franchise. And so there wouldn't be enough security personnel to guard the prisoners once they are outside the prison walls to go and register. It was the main reason why the Electoral Commission had wanted to create a police station at the prison, which the parties have taken again. And so what the Electoral Commission, according to the parties, what the Electoral Commission intends to do now is to now exclude the names of the prisoners and make a special list just for the prisoners. And so if they come, then fine, they can cross-check their names and allow them to vote. But if they don't come, then that is fine. But setting up a polling station at the prisons, that is a difficulty for the party, which the EC has to reverse.
Very well. Apart from the the names or the list of registered voters added to the supplementary register and voting in the prisons, what other issues did this IPAC meeting discuss, Parker, if I still have you there?
Yeah, you mentioned a while ago that the Electoral Commission banked excess of about 150 ballot papers. Now, that issue also came up at the meeting today. Now, the NDC had made the point that, printing 5% ballot papers for each constituency was going to be a problem, or was going to be problematic. And so they actually wanted the Electoral Commission to do by polling station by polling station. So for you to print about 500 ballot papers for a constituency, it's better to print about 10 or 15 ballot papers for a polling station. And so this came up at the meeting, and the EC agreed with the NDC that, well, going forward, they are not going to print about 10 or 15 ballot papers for each polling station, and not necessarily do a whole constituency issue. So that issue also came up, and that has been resolved. So for the NDC, today, they left the IPAC meeting very happy, knowing very well that the suggestions and recommendations they made at the meeting, the EC admitted and would work towards it.
And some good news there, 10 days to the election, I must say, because it hasn't been so from the beginning. Parker, thank you very much for those updates there. Kwesi Parker Wilson there, he joined us after monitoring that IPAC meeting, which happened today, and he's brought us some updates. Let's move away from that. Now, the governing New Patriotic Party says it expects to win the December general elections by 53%. Now, the party says, although recent surveys by the Political Science Department of the University of Ghana, that's the Center for Democratic, as well as the Center for Democratic Development, and others give the party morale booster, they are not complacent and will campaign for every single vote. Former General Secretary of the party, Kwabena Japan, tells my colleague Elton Brobe, President Akufo-Addo's humility, competence, and deliverables, as he puts it, will win him a one-touch victory.
Day 2 of the Central Regional Tour of President Akufo-Addo, and we are just about getting ready to hit the campaign road, where the president is expected to canvass vote for a second-term bid. But before we do that, we have somebody we are about to speak to ask him about how the campaign is going, what the MPP is doing about the recent survey put together by the University of Ghana Political Science Department, which put the MPP ahead of the MPP in the December 7th general election. Kwame Japon is a former general secretary of the party, and he's been with President Akufo-Addo since the start of this campaign tour. We are going to find out from him what he's seen so far. Is he convinced the MPP will be retained in power? What is the party making of the survey by the Political Science Department of the University of Ghana? Are they complacent? Are they okay? These are some of the questions we're going to find out from him very soon.
From this campaign especially, the volunteers, it's been taken over by the young ladies, the young guys. There are a lot of volunteer groups, and I'm proud of what they've been able to achieve, because I set it off in 2016 with what we call the V16, volunteers for 2016. Now we have the V20, and a lot of female groups, maidens, loyal ladies, alpha patriots, dedicated patriots, ambassadors for Nana, over 40 volunteer groups in the party, and everywhere you go around the country, they are there, they dominate the work. And when the youth begin to love your message and they drive the message, it's all because of the fantastic policies that the president has pursued, which it appears has touched the lives of Ghanaians. In fact, I've traveled around the country with the president for the last 3 months, from Kajiji in the Senate East, Kwame Danso, Atebubu, Techiman, Wenchi, right through to Domai Hinkro, up to the north, Pusiga, Hamile, coming right down south to Enche, Ansankragwa, Petoy, Joje, and everywhere you are, the message has been the same, that the impact of the delivery of infrastructure, be it roads, be it water and sanitation infrastructure, railway infrastructure. If you compare us to the NDC, in the 8 years of the NDC, they were only able to add 15 kilometers of rail track. In the 3.5 years of President Akufo-Addo, we've been able to do over 300 kilometers of rail track. That should tell you the difference between the two administrations. And I think that spirit of volunteerism, that spirit of dedication, of sacrifice, prepared to work without any motivation, that is the spirit that is driving this campaign. And I can see there's a marked difference from the sort of noises you used to hear in the past. Yeah.
Right. Now, let's...
Elton Brobe there with that interview with Kwame Japon. Now, President Akufo-Addo is in the meantime continuing his tour of the central region and is expected to commission a hospital at Trifo-Praso. Presidential correspondent Elton Brobe is joining me with some more on this. Hello, Elton. Now, the president was in Cape Coast based Kingdom FM. What did he say about the polls predicting his win, first of all?
Right, so for him, he's not overly excited about the polls. In his own words, they are simply polls, they're not votes. And for that reason, he's not complacent, even though it gives him a moral boost that he's going all out to campaign for every vote, and that the fairness of the people, what will happen on December 7th, and the outcome is hoping that the MPP will win. That is why, despite the fact that we heard from people like the Nestin, the CDG, and the EIU, all predicting that the MPP will eventually come victorious in the upcoming election, that is not giving him the comfort to sleep, rather it's encouraging him to go out and campaign. Because once the people who vote for come December 7th, it will be one who matter, and not the opinions that have been expressed as of now. So he's putting it aside and campaigning for every vote across the country before December 7th. That on the midnight of December 8th, that will be the time that will come to the completion of the Sunday hearing campaign on. So that on this time to go out.
Elton, I'm sort of losing you intermittently. Can you repeat the final sentence for me?
So this is, we're actually traveling from Trifo-Praso to the next destination. So reception is not all that good. But I was talking about the fact that it says that until the electionary campaign is over on the midnight of 6th of December, we'll continue to campaign
and ensure that everybody campaign for in the upcoming election.
Okay, Elton, because of the network stability, I heard you. I did hear you clearly at this point, but let me not belabor that. We'll reach back out to you when you finally reach Chifo Praso. Elton Brobe there is embedded with the president's campaign team. He is, of course, our presidential affairs correspondent, and he'll bring us up to speed on the activities of the president as he makes that final push. Now, Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia has been touring the Greater Accra region. Latif Idrisu sent this report.
After delivering his major statement at a town hall meeting Thursday evening, Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is back on the campaign trail in the Greater Accra region. Today, he's expected to visit not less than 3 constituencies in the Greater Accra region. First port of call is the Medina constituency, where is, as you find, driving through streets within the Medina market and the Medina Contention municipality. He's been calling on party faithful to vote and canvass massively for the administration to retain power come December 7. But what a gesture! What a gesture the people of the Medina market had shown to the Vice President. They've been rolling carpets on the street for the Vice President's motorcade to just drive over the carpet. That is a huge statement, a huge gesture the people of this constituency have shown to the Vice President. He's been calling on them, the rank and file, party faithful, to vote massively for the new patriotic party come December 7, so that the administration would continue with, according to him, the good works they have started within the past 4 years.
Education. Yaran nan su samu ilimi don mu duka mun sani kamar da Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam wai har China ne zamu kai mu samu wannan ilimi mu tai China mu samu free SHS na ina tanye zunguri kore ina tanye mu kore don talakawa mun yawa cikin su free SHS ina tanye don si wannan ina nan amma na Akufo-Addo win Allah ya yi yaran nan sun kare free SHS na bai so su saura wuri ina so su te university amma university na kuma su ma batun kudi ne don sai da zamu doka new policy tertiary student law yaran mu sai babanin mu ba su da kudi su biya wannan school university fees na yaran nan sun pass the government ya biya wannan fees na su te university sai duka mu samu wannan amfani sai wanda ya kara kuma muna son every region 16 regions na mu yi model schools model senior high schools suna yin arabiya da ingiliziya kuma model senior high school na ba schools karankani ba big model senior high schools ka duba waɗansu kake university college design model senior high school za mu yi 16 every region duka one model senior high school mu ba zongo communities arabiya da ingiliziya wannan ya tanye zunguniga.
As Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia there on the campaign trail, we know he's talking about free SHS and talking about moving on from there to the university. Latif Idrisu is on the line with me right now. Latif, let's begin with a brief translation, if you may, of what the Vice President said in summary.
So the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, has just finished addressing a mini rally at the Medina market. Before that, he paid a courtesy call to the Zongo chiefs and the people of the Zongo community within the Medina and Contention municipality. where he made some promises to the Zongo community, one of which, Araba, is that what the administration has started with the free senior high school would continue, and even they will improve it if the Ghanaian people give them a second term opportunity, which is to say that, according to the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, this administration would set up 16 model senior high schools within the Zongos and inner cities across the country. That is one. Two, to make tertiary education accessible to people living within the Zongo community, the Vice President has reiterated points that have been made over and over by the administration that in their second term, what they are going to do is to make loan facilities available to students from the vulnerable and then needy communities in order for them to access tertiary education and then pay back the loan later to the government. So right from the Madina Zongo area, he moved to another section, all within the Madina Land Continent community, and then straight to the Madina market, where he addressed a mini rally of traders who gathered there in their numbers. But something interesting happened along the way, which I'm sure you played in the clip that just aired on the television. When traders at the Madina market were rolling carpet on the street for the Vice President's team to just drive on the motorcade. That was something that got the Vice President in a very cheery and enthusiastic mood, and he spent a few minutes to address those people within the Madina market, where he also came up with something very interesting. He gave a narrative of a lady who abandoned her husband and got into a new marriage, which is more blissful. Later for the...
A lot of background sound there. Obviously, Latif is on the move, but you get the point that he's making. The places that the Vice President has been to, and of course, the analogy that he makes about moving from a marriage you think isn't good to another. You certainly know how it ends. NDC presidential candidate John Dramani Mahama says he is convinced that he will win the December polls. His comment comes hours after research conducted by the Political Science Department of the University of Ghana indicated that the New Patriotic Party is likely to win the upcoming elections. Addressing a rally after visiting the overlord of Dagbang, he also stated that judging from opinion polls and surveys conducted, the NDC will also win majority parliamentary seat.
Day one of NDC presidential candidate John Mahama's tour of the northern region. We are currently in a community called Jamboy here in the Kwandai constituency. It's 12 a.m., but hundreds of NDC supporters are gathered here at Jamboy listening to the NDC presidential candidate. Well, earlier he was in the Mion constituency, the Yendi constituency, and other places.
Hundreds of people welcomed the NDC presidential candidate to Yendi, with some of them riding horses, others on motorbikes. After a visit to the Biwa Palace in Yendi, the NDC presidential candidate addressed the rally. He says he's convinced the NDC will win the elections.
NDC, I'm convinced, will win the election. As for the parliamentary election, from our calculations and the opinion polls, we have won the majority in parliament already. And by God's grace, Yendi constituency is going to be one of those seats NDC will win. Ezu Enyalia na people tiyan number tiyan num presidential man parliamentary mbi kama parliamentary manguna now equal teponya majority parliament mangi Ezu and mbi kama Yendi constituency NDC Yendi Nasara Yendi constituency go.
He has been assuring residents of Yendi the Eastern Corridor roads will be prioritized if NDC wins the elections.
That we built. But most of all, we started and we're working on the Eastern Corridor Road project. And that project gave a lot of employment to the young people in Yendi. After we left office, that project has come to a standstill. I just came from Yanes Palace and I've assured him that NDC is coming with a program we call the Big Push. And under the Big Push, the Eastern Corridor is one of the priority projects under the Big Push.
He says a future NDC government will make sure Ghanaians are safe.
We know that it is when NDC is in power that we feel safe and secure. Anytime NDC leaves power, you have an upsurge in armed robbery. Today, you can't travel freely in this part of the country without the fear of falling into the hands of armed robbers. Now, instead of equipping the police with weapons, bulletproof vests, and the things they need to fight the armed robbers' vehicles, they are using those weapons and bulletproof vests and vehicles to give to their vigilantes to terrorize Ghanaians. When I become president, we're going to make Ghana safe again. You know the thing about MPP, they are always full of talk, but no action. Sakam botox reme bobotumda. And NDC is full of action but no talk. Saka tutumda amatobo toxra.
John Dramani Mahama, of course, is the flag bearer for the opposition NDC, and both him and President Akufo-Addo are out there with the last push for your votes. So what will influence that vote come December 7, which is just next month? We've been around this country with that question. Most of you have voted, and later today we wrap it all up in the Tema Central constituency. Voting ended on Thursday, with majority indicating education policies will influence their vote. Take a look at how the people of Tema Central voted. So if you're talking about sewage and waste management, you have about 17% of them out of 34 votes. 34 votes out of 200 saying that they'll vote based on sewage and waste management in Ghana. So just a fraction of it. But roads, of course, has 7.5%, 15 votes out of the 200. So roads, it's not that big, if you like. It's not big of an issue for them. 10% of them, as 20 out of the 200 votes, say housing and how government or whatever alternatives there are in housing will influence their votes. And then comes the big one, I think, one of the big ones, 21.5%. That's 43 out of 200 votes say they will vote based on employment. So employment will certainly shape how they vote. Let me bring in, we'll go through those, but let me bring in Winston Amwa, who's deputy head of our political desk and host of the Ballot Box. Winston is here with me. Winston, it's good to have you. I mean, seeing you right now reminds me of what happened in the northern region when you went there. Must have been an experience. We'll talk about that. But let's take a look at the figures we're getting from Tema Central and how they voted. I got to employment, and then we're looking at education now. 27%. That's 54 votes out of the total of 200. What do these results say about this particular constituency?
Well, it says a lot, Gifty, and because you'd realize that in at Hohoe, at Boku, and other places we've been, it's always been road. But this is a departure from the usual road conversation.
Exactly.
What that also means is that you're in an area which is urbanized, and so the roads are not much of a problem. Maybe roads linking to people's homes would be a problem, but the major roads are better compared to what we have in other parts of the country. And so that would bring in the conversation about education. Not so long ago, the University of Ghana Political Science Department says 62% of electors say that they would vote based on education. Well, based on our own analysis we have done, majority of them had suggested roads until yesterday, when the people of Tema Central said, well, they are looking at education.
So this part of the voting pattern sort of correlates that correlates or corroborates some way somehow with that poll, the survey that was conducted by the University of Ghana, doesn't it?
Well, yes. Well, if you look at the fact that majority of the people in this constituency say they're looking at education, then you probably may say so. But if you also look at the margin, the University of Ghana is talking about 62%, and this is 27%. That's a huge margin. And so what I can say is that, well, majority of Ghanaians would look at education if you were to rate all the issues, or majority of Ghanaians within this particular constituency, because we've brought to you, polls from other parts of the country where 40% are talking about roads. And 31% are talking about roads. Even in some rural Greater Accra, people were talking about roads. So that's the dynamics we see in the election. But of course, in an urbanized area, it's important they're talking about education, because they're talking also about free SHS. They're asking questions about how we ensure quality of education, how we ensure more access to education, how we also would ensure that, when it comes to tertiary education, make it better for the people.
So if I may just jump in there, Winston, it doesn't necessarily mean that just because they choose education, that they're going to necessarily vote for a particular party based on what it has done in the education sector, free SHS, for example. Because you get the feeling that people seem to think that if people are going to vote based on education, then they'll vote for an NPP government because they have implemented free SHS. But it doesn't necessarily, it's not black and white.
No, I mean, when people are talking about education, it's not all about free SHS. They're talking about other aspects of education, okay? And one of the things we did sectorial analysis. And so we didn't pull out free SHS and say it is free SHS. Even if you talk about access to education, quality of education, it's still under education. Of course, free SHS comes up a lot, in modern conversation. One of the things that people talk about most under education is free SHS. They're looking at its sustainability, they're looking at its improvement, but hey, people are talking about other issues.
Education is much bigger.
It's much bigger in this country. So I could say that, look, when it comes to education, is one of the biggest conversations we're having in this country. I was telling you earlier about the situation in Hohoe, for instance, where market women talked about how they're looking at one of the parties that would be able to tell them how soon they'll be able to end coronavirus so their children can go back to school. That for them was the most important issue.
And so if you were voting based on, if you did the sectorial, pattern voting, you would have said they talked about education, but that's a different thing. This is more about coronavirus and education.
Exactly, and so the thing is that for your ability for recall purposes, make it education, and then we would put other things under education, and that's why we're having this conversation, and we're explaining, the decisions that people made based on education.
So today, for the final one, we're in Tema.
Yes.
Tell us a bit more about it.
Well, so the trend has been the same. Once we've done the polling, we've done the collation, we've declared the results, there are specific questions, and the team would pick some of these questions at random, and you would see tonight on your screen, we just get in there and pick the questions at random, and then we ask the questions. We'd ask one or two questions just to set the tone for the conversation, and then we allow the electorates who have been invited in there, because of COVID-19. We ensure that we invite interest groups. The whole conversation about ballot box this year has been about inclusiveness, equity, and social justice. So we're getting persons with disability, we're getting market women or the women groups, we're getting the youth into the conversation to tell us more about things that would influence the choices that they make. So these groups will be asking all the questions. And what we'll be doing is to be moderating and ensure that we have a smooth process.
Okay, so far, how has it been for you? I bring you back to that very interesting experience that you have. Was that Boko?
Yeah, that was in Boko.
That was Boko. A very interesting experience that you had. Talk me through it briefly. How has it been for you?
Well, it's been an exciting experience going to Hohwe on...
No, it's been an exciting experience. Tell me that's a cliche. You just said it because it's a cliche.
Oh, hold on. I'll explain.
Okay.
I mean, going to Hohwe and, you know, on the Eastern Corridor Road, very terrible road, and I've said it, I've used it, I know how bad that road is. And you have the NDC parliamentary candidate for Hohwe, Professor Margaret Kweku, saying, if I use this road, I have waist pain. So I go through Bando and other parts just to make sure that I don't use that road often. Now, it was very, very stressful and tiring in Boku. Sleeping in Bogatanga and, you know, driving 2 hours to Boku, in and out every day. Yeah. And then on the day itself, we all saw what happened.
Yeah.
You know, you are enjoying the sunshine in the Upper East region. And having left Bogatanga, you know, early on, you are in Boku for hours. The program starts, and someone says he wouldn't let you continue because he thinks that he should have been made to ask a question. And known to us, they had gone into an agreement that's between the NPP and NDC.
Oh, right.
So they actually felt that if I asked to, you asked to. And we didn't know that special.
And you were just choosing who to ask what question.
And so for this person, even though
we have agreed,
even though the person asking the question is his party member, he thinks that that's the first person. It should come to him. And if it doesn't come to him, then it becomes an issue. Okay. But, you know, I say that at that point in time when the police found it very difficult to, you know,
control the people,
the director, Yao Forsen just said, Winston, get involved.
And you did. And it did. It worked, didn't it? It worked. I mean, that's quite an experience. I mean, I was just sitting here and I was wondering how would I have handled this. But Winston, we thank God that you were able to deal with it. But it gives us learning experiences of how we can improve it next time. Yeah. And if we get there, we'll find out whether there has been any prior arrangements before we start picking and choosing people. Winston, thank you very much for coming.
Welcome.
Winston Omoy is deputy head of our political desk, and we're talking about the ballot box where today in Tema, where I was born. It will be interesting, I'm sure of that. Now, 261 flashpoints identified in the OT region alone. We'll be looking at the election and security shortly. Do stay tuned. I'll be right back. You're welcome back to the show. Many thanks for staying with us. Now, it has been revealed that a sizable majority of Ghanaians wants the military involved in election security with just 10 days to this year's crucial election. This was contained in a research conducted by the Political Science Department of the University of Ghana. You may recall that JoyNews has been serializing reports from the various regions and constituencies ahead of the 2020 polls to gauge the security concerns of Ghanaians. Today, we have a new report from the OT region, which has a total of 223 flashpoints identified by the police. First, we'll take you back to the report from the Asawase constituency in the Ashanti region, where residents want special attention given to their constituency to avoid violence in the December polls.
The Asawase constituency is listed among hotspots in the upcoming election, with 53 areas under police radar. The quest of the New Patriotic Party to grab the parliamentary seats from the National Democratic Congress is said to be the cause of the high tension in the area. Several incidents have threatened security in Asawase constituency. In July, a national security operative brandished a gun at a registration center in an attempt to restrict some people from registering in the constituency. Pockets of political violence characterized internal activities of both political parties, mainly from internal race to become parliamentary candidates. Latest among incidents leading to heightened tension is the arrest of some NDC persons police suspect to be armed robbers terrorizing the region. Many in the constituency are concerned about security situation ahead of the upcoming elections. Some point to the existence of party vigilantes despite their disbandment.
We are not seeing the usual macho style and this kind of activities now, but who knows what is going to happen. The political parties should be able to apply the law and make sure that the vigilantes are totally eradicated.
The matter of insecurity and then vigilantes is almost everywhere across the country, in every constituency, in every region.
Others observed the police, after killing of 7 Asawase constituents in Manson Kwanta, have refused to patrol the area. This, according to them, has resulted in the open use of drugs by the youth in the area, creating a sense of insecurity, especially as elections beckon.
There is a public toilet over there. When you go there, so far at least around 4:30 to 10 o'clock, Charlie, it's something else.
Creating a sense of insecurity, especially as elections beckon. For JoyNews, Nana Ojima reporting.
And that was a report we played earlier. It's from the Ashanti region, which tops the list of hotspots with over 900 hotspots. Now let's zoom in into today's report from the OT region, where we end our series Safety for My Vote. 260 flashpoints, like I said, have been identified in that region by police. Armed and highway robbery are on the ascendancy, and arms, which can be used to perpetrate electoral violence, continue to circulate in the wrong hands. Correspondent Peter Seno reports.
We need peace. All is well when there is peace. Soldiers. We need the security forces to be on the ground. Any misunderstanding without their presence would be bloody. Their presence would even restrain those who may want to foment trouble. The security should also act professionally when they come around. With 261 hotspots, 8 constituencies for the pending December 2020 elections, the fears of Jibril Amidu could not be far-fetched. With party fanatics doing all it takes just to ensure that their political parties win elections, with some members acting in wanton disregard of the law, residents say they need maximum security presence on the ground come election day. Abbas expresses same fears.
We need the security very necessary, because the way some of the guys are misbehaving towards during the voting time, in fact, they misbehave. In fact, so during the voting time, we want people, security to come very tightly, because some of them, when they come, even those that are at the polling station there to control, they don't even regard them in anything. When they say this, oh, they are, some of them will even come and be saying that we are from Accra regional, this and this, so we are sent to do this. But if you go through the process or the rules book there, you will not see anybody sent from the regional office that you should come and do this, but they will come and be telling like that this, and so we are expecting more security people to come and help us during voting time.
For Tobias, he does not want any embarrassment and intimidation on the election day from those to be deployed into the border community of Menusu.
We, as around the border here, we only beg them not to embarrass anybody at all, which may bring confusion. If there should be confusion between other areas or Muslim or whatever it is, then it will become a problem to the community. So we only want to beg them that if the police will come or whatever person will come, they should come peacefully and understanding, not to come attack anybody, and that should be. We only want peace, not attack. We are not here to fight with anybody.
His fears are, however, allayed by the district police commander for the KGB district, Michael Asiedu, who says there would not be any form of intimidation from his men.
Ghana Police Service is at the forefront of these impending elections. But I can assure you, there will be peace before, during, and after. Nobody will be intimidated. Nobody will be allowed to put fear in anybody, and nobody will be disenfranchised. We will all get up on 7th, go, queue, and cast our votes.
Peter Sen for JoyNews.
News just coming in. Martin Amidu, the former special prosecutor, has just released another, if you like, epistle in that he describes President Akufo-Addo as the mother serpent of corruption. In a 27-page letter, Mr. Martin Amidu lays some concerns that he has. I have two of my colleagues right here in the studio with me, Ernest Menu and Kweku Asante, to talk us through what is happening. Let me start with you, Ernest. What does Mr. Martin Amidu say now?
So this letter is addressed to the Secretary to the President, Office of the President. Remember that Nana Asante was the one who was instructed by the President to respond to the issues raised by Mr. Martin Amidu. And it says that there's the title.
Just to jump in, Kojo, let's start perhaps giving our viewers a little bit of a background.
Of a context. So in fact, you know that Martin Amidu had resigned as special prosecutor. He had made claims of interference in his work by President Akufo-Addo and raised a raft of issues in a letter which we got a copy of and brought to our listeners. Now, the President instructed the Executive Secretary, Nana Asante to respond, first of all, to accept the resignation of Martin Amidu, and then respond to the issues that were raised in that particular letter, which we intercepted.
So
now, Martin Amidu, in responding, lays the context, gives a certain context to this response. He says, I read with utmost surprise in the media on the night of the 17th November 2020, your letter with reference number states that on the 17th of November 2020, on the above subject matter, which was addressed to me personally in my capacity as a citizen of Ghana, after I had written to His Excellency the President in my official capacity, then as special prosecutor, to resign my position in accordance with law. Now, the letter the President directed and instructed you to write in 2020, that states the date, was hand-delivered to me at my residence 7 a.m. in the forenoon of 18 November 2020. A number of introductory falsehoods, and this is the first issue he raised, falsehoods, public deceptions, and spinning propaganda are manifest from the letter, from the President's letter to me personally, which need to be debunked as preliminary matters in this response of mine to the President before I address the other issues intended by the President to assassinate my character. So he talks about falsehood, he talks about public deception, spinning propaganda, and then what he claims are attempts to assassinate his character for simply exposing the true nature of the offshore Jersey Incorporated Ejapa Royalties Limited transaction in my professional anti-corruption assessment report. And remember that the Ejapa Royalties assessment report is what sparked all of this. So this is the context he lays to the very response that you know, he has written to the President.
And this is just one of the paragraphs.
This is the introductory paragraph.
Okay, so what we're doing is that we're taking the three key paragraphs that lays the background and then talks about the substantive matters that he raises. Koko, let me come to you with your paragraph. What does he say in that paragraph?
So this is the paragraph that has the most important aspects of this statement for now. Here is where he describes the President as the mother serpent of corruption. And let me read.
Okay, go for it.
It says that the President on 7 January 2017 took the presidential oath in which he pledged, inter alia, that I will at all times preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana, and that I dedicate myself to the service and well-being of the people of the Republic of Ghana, and to do right to all manner of persons, unquote. This is why the President's directive and instructions to you, which he knows have the tendency to push me under the bus, but he's doing wrong to my person as a citizen of Ghana for performing my professional duties in the United Kingdom, Jersey Incorporated Ejapa Royalties Transaction Anti-Corruption Assessment Report, reinforces the divine revelation that he took the presidential oath while looking like the innocent flower of corruption, but being the mother serpent of corruption under it. So this part, he says that by this specific action that the president has taken by trying to shelve the report that he had published,
according to Mr.
Martin, now the president looked like an anti-corruption flower, but then he's the mother serpent of corruption.
That's how Mr. Martin.
And when you come to paragraph 18, he talks about his decision then to resign as special prosecutor.
Let's hear it.
He says, I became more convinced beyond any further reasonable doubt after my second meeting with the president in his office in the evening of Sunday, 1st November, when the president attempted to persuade me to shelve the Ejapa Royalties Limited Transaction Anti-Corruption Assessment Report, and he said this before, to allow him deal with the matter through a statement to the public that God, represented by the Holy Trinity in my Catholic faith, was in his own divine way revealing to me for the first time that the president of Ghana only looked like an innocent flower of the fight against corruption, but was indeed the mother serpent of corruption.
Is that a repetition of the expression, the mother serpent of corruption, so in another paragraph?
Exactly, but just to buttress the point that upon this interaction with the president, I was then revealed to by God in this letter that this president is not actually committed to the fight against corruption.
Now, what I'm trying to highlight is the fact that there are...
The use of the phrase.
The use of this phrase is not just once. He repeats it
throughout. It's repeated in paragraph 18.
Right. Kwaku, you have something to add to that.
So there's a part in paragraph 40 of his letter where he's actually saying that the president and his team, which he described as lazy lawyers, have misrepresented his intentions to resign. He says that the official resignation letter of the first special prosecutor with reference number OSP 2AM, the reference is stated, I have read and reread the resignation letter, and there is no paragraph in which I complain about the lack of budgetary allocation as the reason for my resignation from my then position as the special prosecutor. The reason assigned for my resignation from the position as special prosecutor are clearly stated, and he quotes, that it is the reaction of the president to his letter with reference number, he says it, conveying to you the conclusions and observations of the analysis of the risk of corruption and anti-corruption assessment of the Ejapa Royalties Limited transactions. It convinces me beyond every reasonable doubt that you had labored under the mistaken belief that I could hold the office of the special prosecutor.
Which again is a line that he repeats from his previous
But this
letter.
is how he wraps up, and it's very interesting, Gifty. Paragraph 72, he says,